flood-affected areas in West New Britain face shortage of food and water. Care centre in Bogia flooded following continuous rain. And our sailing venue does not meet International Federation requirements.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
A very good evening to you and welcome to Monday's news. It's good to have your company. Families affected by the recent flooding in the West New Britain province are starting to face food and water shortages as the rains continue. People in Buluma in the Mosa local level government area say relief has been slow in arriving. The West New Britain Disaster Office, meanwhile, is still collecting relief items as it awaits national government funding to fix the damaged roads and bridges.
These makeshift tents along the Buluma coastline just outside of Kimbe town is where a group of family members have resettled after their homes and gardens were destroyed by flood waters. They have been without food and fresh water for several days, and the long wait for relief supplies has really affected them.
Something come up now, people are not ready.
They have leveled much of the blame on the Provincial Disaster Centre for not providing relief supplies on time. All they are relying on is the sea and any little food they can afford to pay.
All garden belum mipla, warai rausim, all house belum mipla.
In the last 3 months, the West New Britain province was badly affected by heavy rains. Earlier this month, cyclones swept through the coastline right into the inland communities, causing damages to their homes and gardens. Heavy rains have also washed off the food gardens, and many roads and bridges were destructed.
Rain come, go down Bagarabim house, come out in all Kappa Blo house, Sambla mipla Lucy Mouse, Ronawen about come Sile Parello Solwara.
Following the 7.7 magnitude earthquake in Kokopo, a tsunami warning was issued to parts of the New Guinea Highlands region. However, West New Britain remains calm as the earthquakes were felt this morning in most parts of the province. Sylvester Gawi, National EMTV News, Kimbe.
The Potsdam Care Centre in Bogia has been flooded by the continuous rains in the province. Pictures received by EMTV News this afternoon show the destruction of food gardens. Potsdam is one of the care centres where displaced Manam Islanders settled following the eruption of their island. Unconfirmed reports say the people, especially the children, are now affected by diseases that was caused by drinking contaminated water through the flooding. The people are now in dire need of clean water and food. The National Weather Service has confirmed a magnitude 7.6 earthquake that struck New Island region today. Tsunami waves of up to 1 to 3 meters are expected along some parts of Papua New Guinea. However, the National Weather Service says it will not be destructive. They are closely monitoring the situation and advise people living along the area to adhere to warnings issued. At last, Papua New Guinea will have a new Human Rights Commission set up to protect and promote the rights of the citizens. Currently, the Project Management Unit is working on its mechanisms to set up a database. They will be working under the justice sector.
The Project Management Unit team leader, Francis Tavatuna, said the reports from the United Nations about PNG having the highest number of human rights abuses are assumptions. Currently, there is no human rights office to address and collect data of abuse cases in PNG. A database system will be set up to record proper statistics of abuse cases, types of abuses, and how the data can help to address human rights issues in PNG.
And the basic aim of the office is to see and address issues on human rights abuse cases in Papua New Guinea. Currently now we have no such institution that will be a voice to the people here. And we have so many abuse cases coming up now in the country which are not reported.
Although the National Executive Council has approved the bill in 2012 to set the commission, groundwork has not yet been done. 10.9 million kina funding from the national government is still with the Department of Personnel Management. The project management unit are setting up mechanisms, and once approved by the government in the next parliament sitting this year, a chief commissioner and 2 other commissioners will be appointed.
And I imagine you people to come out, whatever rights that have been abused. We have lawyers in the office that will help deal with your cases, and I'm looking forward in a better partnership with the public when we launch the office next month.
The commission will fully function in May this year. It will oversee and address unreported human rights issues in the country. A mediation tribunal will also be included in the commission to mediate the cases, and they will also make recommendations for prosecutions. Next year, they are looking at branching out to other 22 provinces. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
Describing Enga as the education province of Papua New Guinea, Australia says it is impressed with developments made in learning in that area. Its High Commissioner here, Deborah Stokes, made the reference during a visit to Wabeg recently to inspect some of the institutions which Australia has helped fund. She was also there to witness the launch of the Enga chapter of the PNG Alumni Association, also known as the PNG AAA. It is a grouping of elites who contribute development ideas and foster productive relations between Papua New Guinea and Australia.
The Australian High Commissioner flew into Wapenamanda Airport, her first by any Australian high-ranking diplomat. Senior public servants and a number of provincial leaders greeted her on the tarmac. It was first and foremost get to know Enga visit for Ms. Stokes. Among other officials was the Acting Secretary of the Department of Higher Education, Professor David Kavanamur. At provincial capital Wabeg, the High Commissioner was welcomed by the Governor for Enga, the Grand Chief Peter Ipatas, at the provincial headquarters. Her first project visit was the new Enga Teachers College. The grounds also housed the Enga branch of the Institute of Business Studies. Then a quick drive to the western side of the capital to the new nursing college at Sopas. Australia has a funding assistance of 4.3 million kina towards dormitories and dining and kitchen facilities. But central to the visit was at Sirunki on the border of Wabeg and Layagam districts, the launch of the Enga chapter of the Papua New Guinea Australia Alumni Association. Hundreds packed the Yoscom resort grounds for the occasion. The PNG AAA is a collection of elites who have studied in Australia, of those who could identify themselves with it to contribute and develop productive relations between PNG and Australia. The Enga chapter of the PNG AAA was launched by the national head of the association, Professor Kavanamur. Governor Ipatas described the days as historic in the development path of Enga. He added that the presence of the Australian High Commissioner signified that. Australia's contributions of progress in Enga was also recognized in another way in a special ceremony organized by the Enga Provincial Administrator, Dr. Samson Amian. Away from protocols and officialdom, Ms. Stokes was accorded the special traditional bride's wear as a special lady in Enga. Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
The All Search Games Relay has started off the first leg of the Baton Relay in Sandan Province. Today, the baton made it to rural Telefomin, Nuku and across to the Sepik Plains in the Lumi district. It arrived yesterday in Vanimore and was welcomed by the acting governor, Paul Nangai, and the locals.
The All Search Pacific Games Relay launched the 100-day journey around the country at a ceremony at Ella Beach, Port Moresby on the 25th of March. The guests were entertained by the Motuan dancers from the village of Gubba Gubba, thus paying homage to the traditional landowners of the area. Visiting dignitaries included the Governor, Pawas Pako, Sports Minister, Justin Tatenko, All Search Representative, Garua Opi, and the event being launched by the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, the Honourable Peter O'Neill.
I ask all Papua New Guineans to welcome the baton and farewell the baton in a true Papua New Guinean fashion.
The relay baton started its journey with the Prime Minister handing the baton to Emma Waiwai, the chairperson of the Games Committee. She in turn passed it on to the villagers of Gubba Gubba, who waited on the water's edge in a scaled-down version of the Hiri traditional vessel, the Lakatoi. The boat was laden with more gifts and a message of welcome from the Hiri people for the rest of the country. The journey had begun. On the Sunday of the 29th, the baton left Port Moresby and was flown to Vanimo, Sundown Province. The passing of the baton took place in the airport between All Sets representative Geru Upi and the acting governor, Paul Nagai. School children creating a guard of honour, and the acting governor addressed the crowd with baton in hand. Tarua, the mascot for the Games, made an appearance, and from there the relay took place around the town of Vanimo, involving the South Pacific Games sponsors, the local hospital, the primary school, police and armed forces, who all walked, marched, ran, and chanting their own slogans through the streets of Vanimo. Games relay journey continues.
You're watching National EMTV News. Among stories after the break, Teachers Savings and Loans extend its services to Sundown Province. Stay tuned for that and more. Good to have you back with the news. The Teachers Savings and Loan Society is aiming to add 16,000 more members to its current 42,000 membership by 2016. With this in mind, TISA has introduced 3 new products and is upgrading its sub-branches to a full branch. Vanimo's sub-branch has been recently upgraded to a full branch, giving public servants in West Sepik another bank to save money with.
Public servants have been encouraged to open an account with the Teachers Savings and Loan Society and save money while they benefit from its new services. TISA, the biggest savings and loan society in the South Pacific, has grown from strength to strength, now boasting over 42,000 members and 14 established branches in PNG. Chief Executive Officer Michael Koisen says they may consider involving the private sector in the future.
Private sector, not yet, but we're working on that. We're looking at Popondetta this year. That'll be upgraded to a full branch. And then we're looking at Kiunga, Chimbu, Mendi, and Wabeg. And then there's new provinces in Jiwaka and Hela.
The CEO was among a group of senior managers and board members who visited West Sepik and commissioned the Vanimo sub-branch to a full operational branch. TISA board chairman Gabriel Tai says over 1,000 members in Vanimo can now enjoy a fast turnover in the loan processing. Recently, the organization launched 3 new products. One of them enables a customer to open an account and at the same time get a loan of up to 6,000 kina.
2 things at the same time. 1, become a member. When they sign in their name and their account number. And also 2, also upfront they can get how much they want to, ranging from 100 kina up to 6,000 kina.
When I got into as acting governor, I fought hard for financial institutions to come to West Sepik and establish here. Last year, maybe in talks fight hard, now bring him NDB come now. NDB now provide him legally loans, legally online. What some loan 5,000, 2,000, all gone to the border, buy more something. Now you can see them, they're selling these things here.
The upgrading of the Vanimo sub-branch has brought hope to many public servants. However, a local vendor who mainly sells Indonesian products bought cheaply from across the border says they need a bank where they can exchange PNG kina to Indonesian rupee.
So mi plawok lo isi money blow you me na ilu ko sembi pla money blow me go upside payments.
Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
With the commemoration of the World Tuberculosis Day last week, corporate companies in PNG are taking on the fight against TB to an executive level. The PNG Ports Corporation Limited has vowed to make testing for tuberculosis compulsory for all its staff members in all its 15 ports throughout the country. This in an effort to combat the disease. PNG Ports Chief Executive Officer Stanley Alphonse says all necessary action is being taken to ensure TB tests for all its staff. Port Moresby port staff underwent TB tests last week, with all other ports expected to follow soon. Access to land and the lack of it are hindrances to growing the SME sector. This was a concern raised by Des Yaninen, the Chief Executive Officer of NDB's subsidiary, NDB Investments. It comes at a time when the government aims to increase the number of SMEs to 450,000 in the next 15 years.
Mr. Yaninen says in order for a business to be successful, it has to be located in a prime location. However, most of these locations are all taken.
Many of those locations, unfortunately, are already taken. There's already shops in every major corner, and in order for us to get to those places, we're going to have to pay exorbitant rents or to purchase those plots of land at very, very high prices.
One solution the bank has offered is for the government to develop and create new suburbs in undeveloped pockets of the city and the nation.
The only way that the government can maybe allocate these commercial pieces of land to us is by actually creating new suburbs. By creating whole new suburbs where you have a residential zoning, you have some commercial area, you have some recreational area. So it's only when we move into those new suburbs where you have all of a sudden a new community where they will require a new shopping center, and that's where we can set up shops and businesses for the first time.
The government is ambitious about growing the SME sector to 450,000 in 15 years' time. However, land remains a big problem. This issue was further highlighted in a recent interview by NRI's land expert, Dr. Charles Yala. Dr. Yala is an Associate Professorial Research Fellow with the Property Sector Development Research Program at the National Research Institute. He says Port Moresby or National Capital District is a special case where 60% of the total land was owned by the state, while 40% was under customary ownership. Dr. Yala says all state land within NCD was exhausted because it has been built upon, squatted upon, or fraudulently granted urban development leases or UDLs. Therefore, given the scenario, the NDB sees the way forward is for the government to rezone and create new suburbs which they could subsequently allocate land to increase the SME sector. Bridget Komatep, National EMTV News.
In the autonomous region of Bougainville, schools are unlikely to suspend the academic year because the tuition fee-free policy cannot sustain their operations. This was the statement made from the Bougainville Head Teachers and Principals Forum. MTV's Fabian Hakelitz files this report from Buka.
The national government's tuition fee-free policy has been described as failed by the Bougainville Head Teachers and Principals Forum because it doesn't sustain schools' operational costs in a long run. Head teachers and principals of vocational, technical and secondary high schools highlighted several problems affecting operations in boarding schools like food, electricity, maintenance, stationaries and auxiliary staff. Now with the no project fees instruction issued by the Education Minister, Nick Kuman, schools cannot fully function. Forum Chairperson Martin Takali says schools are possible to suspend classes in Term 2 because of the shortfall.
The forum here resolved that if the government does not pay the balance of the first quarter, the school should be closed in Term 2.
Bougainville Head Teachers and Principals Forum also corrected statements made by the National Education Secretary Dr. Michael Tapo on the 70% TFF paid in first quarter. While most vocational, technical and secondary high schools received less than 70%, one received nothing, Coromira Technical High. This 70% affects operational cost, the fact it's costly managing boarding schools in the country. The national government should review the TFF policy and pay schools according to the budgets.
They must explain to the schools how they are paying and what figure they are using to pay the schools. So that is creating a lot of problems for the schools.
Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News, Buka.
Chinese ambassador to Papua New Guinea, His Excellency Li Ruiyu, says China will continue to foster the China-PNG relationship in business and project developments. The Chinese ambassador made these remarks during his goodwill visit to the West New Britain province today. Ambassador Rui Yu visited the Kimbe Provincial Hospital and also donated relief supplies to the flood-affected communities in the province. EMTV's Sylvester Gawi reports from Kimbe.
China and Papua New Guinea's bilateral relationship has been growing since the establishment of the Chinese embassy soon after independence. China has been assisting Papua New Guinea in areas of health, education and infrastructure developments. Today, the Chinese ambassador maintains his government's commitment to assist Papua New Guinea.
This visit is to render the goodwill and friendship of the Chinese people and the Chinese government to the West New Britain provincial government and people here.
The Chinese ambassador this morning met with West New Britain Governor Sasindran Mutual and assured him of partnering in developing the West New Britain province. The visit will also seek to open up more opportunities for the Chinese to improve areas of infrastructure development and economic activities in West New Britain.
I'm looking forward to have more opportunities to continue our friendship and continue our cooperation. So I see the potential for further cooperation in many sectors like tourism, like education and health sector.
The Kimbe Provincial Hospital received a new operating theater from the Chinese government. The Chinese ambassador also sent out his sympathy on behalf of the people of China to the communities affected by cyclone and flash floods in West New Britain. The Chinese government and also Chinese companies operating in Papua New Guinea also made donations in cash and kind. Sylvester Gawi, National EMTV News, Kimbe.
And now we check out the finance news. The Kina closed 10 points lower at $0.3735 in the interbank market. And at Bank South Pacific, the Kina was fetching $0.366 $0.4699 Australian dollars, €0.366 euro, and 43.2 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee and cocoa closed the day lower, copper closed the day higher. Meanwhile, palm oil closed higher, while crude oil and copper closed the day lower. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 38 points higher, the ASX closed at 73 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 72 points lower. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill pays tribute to a giant in Australian politics, and Moribe MPs vow to connect rural Moribe. We'll give you all the details after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to National EMTV News. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill paid tribute on behalf of Papua New Guineans to a man whose influence and support brought tremendous impact on PNG's independence in 1975. Malcolm Fraser, Australia's 22nd Prime Minister, was farewelled in a state funeral service last Friday. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill attended the funeral service at Scots Church in Melbourne, Australia.
Prime Minister O'Neill, who attended the service, extended condolences to members of the Fraser family, many of whom spoke at the funeral service. Prime Minister O'Neill said Mr. Fraser's reputation as a great leader who helped Papua New Guinea attain independence in 1975 has lived on to this day, and his clear support for PNG's independence was unwavering and highly appreciated by our country.
But of course his reputation is as a former Prime Minister who helped Papua New Guinea attain its independence, and of course in the early years his support for Papua New Guinea was well regarded and well appreciated by our country. That is why I'm here today to pay our respects to him and to the family. And we are also saddened by his passing. So he was a great man, and I think he will be remembered for a long, long time.
Mr. Fraser is recognized in PNG for his contributions to political, economic and social development in the Pacific. Prime Minister O'Neill said the former Australian Prime Minister is remembered by many as the Minister for Defence in Australia in 1970, who stepped in to prevent a military call-out during the Mataungan uprising. Mr. Fraser's response to the Mataungan uprising in the colonial period is a demonstration of his understanding of the people of the emerging nation of Papua New Guinea. Prime Minister O'Neill said the understanding and respect continued as PNG gained independence while Mr. Fraser was in opposition, and then when he became the 22nd Prime Minister of Australia. Malcolm Fraser was made a Grand Companion of the Order of the Logohu in 2010 for his service to the people of Papua New Guinea and to the Papua New Guinea-Australia bilateral relationship. Prime Minister O'Neill said Mr. Fraser's farewell was a heartfelt commemoration of a true man of conviction whom the nation thanks for his commitment and service. A substantial crowd gathered outside the Scotch Church in Melbourne on Friday to provide a guard of honour for the funeral procession, which was led by a piper. Born on the 21st of May in 1930, the late Malcolm Fraser passed away on the 20th of March this year at the tender age of 84 after suffering from a short illness. Vanessa Knight, National EMTV News.
The PNG Rehabilitation Centre has urged persons living with disabilities to be more coordinated in order to receive government and private donors' assistance. Chairman Brown Kapi says all persons living with disabilities must take the lead in their communities and be recognised as Papua New Guinea citizens.
In commemorating National Disability Day, Chairman of the PNG Rehabilitation Centre, Brown Kapi, challenged persons living with disabilities to be leaders in their own rights as Papua New Guinea citizens. Brown Kapi, a long-time advocate for persons living with disabilities, says the wait for government assistance will not bring change.
Now you're expecting, when is the next International Disabled Day? When is next outreach visit, Baul come visit, now giving me black clothes, now again a wheelchair. And you are a waste. You are truly a disabled person. Disability is real disability and stable mindset, blue you. If you want to live over and above your disabilities or limitations, then you got to allow for that change to come up. You've got to know that you've got to work.
The chairman wants a more coordinated approach by all persons with disabilities, which he believes will bring them much needed basic services.
You want to see that change? You want to begin to see recognitions and government supporting you, you come in numbers.
Meanwhile, strong advocate for persons living with disabilities, Jean Pakop, spoke strongly on the accessibility of roads and buildings to disabled persons. Pakop says many new buildings are not catering for disabled persons, which is a violation of the Building Act of 1994.
You got act this after, so only work implementing man. So you can go around and look at all these buildings, and those that are not accessible will hold them accountable. And then the government will tell them, you are not implementing this act. You are not making sure that all these people put in the buildings are not making these buildings accessible for us. For the wheelchairs, you go to the bathroom, in wheelchair you not go inside the bathroom. So these are the types of buildings we have.
Pakop says the government and all Papua New Guineans must take part in this national event to bring more awareness and change to the lives of persons living with disabilities. Stanley Ove Jr., National EMTV News.
Airline company Travel Air has defended its termination of employee Cheryl Peruco, saying the company's management was convinced that her termination was based on legitimate grounds. Travel Air says her termination was based on her absenteeism, punctuality and performance, and general work attitude and professionalism. Travel Air management said as a new employee, her attendance and punctuality was poor and she did not possess the qualities of a customer services officer and was consequently terminated. The company said Ms. Peruco could seek redress from the Department of Labour and Industrial Relations or go to court if she believes her termination was unfair. The management also clarified that the expatriate manager Peruco accused did not leave the country for unknown reasons. He was away on annual leave. Kabul MP Bob Dadai and Nawab's Kisuwat Sinuin say they will incorporate their DSIP funds to build more roads. The two MPs have maintained their stand to unite and build new highways linking isolated Kabul, Nawab and Finchafen with Leh City.
Just up there, about 7,000 people.
Kisuwat Sinuin of Nawai and Bob Dadai Kabum have one thing in common. Their districts have limited road access. The only means of transportation into the district is by foot and small airplanes. and a huge chunk of the district budget goes towards freight costs alone. Yet they are two of the most highly populated districts in Morobe. They are also two of the largest contributors of Morobe's organic coffee.
So the continuity of upgrading and putting a road from Pohom, Igolong Situm, Igolong Bukawa Highway.
The two MPs have announced their intentions to band together to invest in building new roads into the area.
Honorable Bob Dada is willing to help.
This also comes following the revival of the National Works Department, with a task of monitoring road works carried out by government contracts issued to private contractors. The proposed road network will cost about 600 million kina, has been brought to the cabinet, that will link Nawai, Kabum and Finschhafen with Leh City. Colin Barilai, National EMTV News, Leh.
And our bulletin continues with Trukai Sports, which is coming up next. I'll give you all the sporting details after these short messages. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. There has been a change, a last-minute change that is, of venue to host the sport of sailing in the Pacific Games. The Games Organising Committee announced that the venue for sailing will not be at Gabutu as initially planned. That is because Gabutu in the Moresby South electorate does not meet with International Federation requirements.
The committee in charge of the venues, infrastructure and equipment has advised that the initial venue for the sailing event in the Pacific Games has not met certain federation requirements. GOC CEO Peter Stewart explains more.
The venues were never decided upon until this last point. In the bid document, we didn't even have some of these venues in the bid document because they weren't available to us. But now we're in a position to see what's the best sports in the best venues, what's best for the athletes.
Okay, so have you already decided where the sailing event will take place?
So sailing was originally scheduled to be at Gabutu. Gabutu was a venue that the Venues Infrastructure and Equipment Committee have been building for long-term legacy for the 2015 Pacific Games. Our technical delegates have reviewed all of our venues, and on their review they've asked the Venues Infrastructure and Equipment Committee for a range of things to be made sure are in place to ensure that the venues can be international standard. In the case of Gabutu, the Venues Infrastructure and Equipment Committee have come back to the Games Organising Committee and advised that they will be unable to make it correct for what we require at Games time for international competition. Right. So we're now in a position where we need to look for another venue. But here in Papua New Guinea we have lots of options for a sailing venue.
Right. So you haven't yet chosen a venue?
Not at this point. We're in negotiations with a number of possible alternatives.
The Games Organising Committee is confident that given the wonderful sailing conditions in Port Moresby, an alternate venue will be available for the Games.
We don't have any concerns about the venues. Our concerns at this point are minor things about making sure that food is right, catering is right, transport is right, our volunteers are right. One of our biggest things is making sure all the teams give us all the names of their athletes in plenty of time so that we know how we can do draws and that for the various games.
Delhi Bagu, National EMTV Sports.
In the meantime, Mr. Stewart said most of the chefs' commission of participating Pacific nations met last week in Port Moresby. Only the representatives from Norfolk Island and Tokala were not here. He said the 22 guests were overwhelmingly impressed with all the facilities that are in place. Stewart said this is the first time for a chef commission meeting to be convened before a Pacific Island Games is held.
They were overwhelmingly impressed with all the facilities that are being put in place. This is the first time ever that a chef commission meeting has been held prior to a Pacific Games. It's something that's done in Commonwealth Games and Olympic Games, but has never been done before for a Pacific Games. So they were over the moon about the fact that A, it was held, and B, when they got here, the facilities and the planning and the organisation that's in place for their athletes to be able to compete at their very best.
As part of preparations towards the upcoming Pacific Games, PNG's boxing squad took part in the Queensland Trials. The tournament, staged over the weekend, saw both male and female boxers go up against some of Queensland's elite boxers.
The PNG boxing team, under the watchful eyes of Australian-based coach Alan Nicholson, are faring well in their training. Members of the squad had the opportunity to face some of Queensland's top-notch boxers at the Brisbane Akershire Ridge Hotel on Saturday as a lead-up to the Pacific Games. Philo Mangaiva took on Queensland's elite female boxer in the 51 kg division. It was an excellent statement from the PNG lass, taking the win in bout 8. Mekio lad Charlie Kiama Jr. continued the positive performance, winning his fight in the 52 kg division, proving his potential for greatness. In the 75 kg division, Jonathan Kiama gunned down his opponent, wrapping up the fight in bout 36. Missing out on the action in the ring were sisters Rafaela and Debbie Kaure, and captain of the PNG boxing squad, Tommy Bogia. Rafaela's would-be opponent did not make her weight and pulled out from the fight, with Debbie and Bogia having to sit the tournament out due to the lack of Queensland fighters in the 75 kg division. It was a solid weekend overall, capped off by the PNG team being undeterred by having to face much heavier boxers in the ring. The PNG boxers won all but one match, performing extremely well in the Sunshine State. Sasha Pesilovo, National EMTV Sports.
The Pacific Games baton landed in West Sepik Province yesterday. The Games baton will spend 3 days in West Sepik, kicking off at Butong on the PNG-Indonesian border, then to inland Telefomin, and will travel along the east coast to the East Sepik border. East Sepik will be the second host of the relay until it reaches Port Moresby for the Games official opening in July.
The atmosphere in Vanimo Airport was colorful as NU Guinea taxied down the runway. All exciting eyes were on the plane's doorway as Oilset's Executive General Manager, External Affairs and Sustainability, Gerea Aupi, stepped out with the Pacific Games baton. Students, members of the disciplinary forces, and acting Sundown Governor Paul Nengai paraded to welcome the Games baton to the province. The baton will spend 3 days there, visiting coastal and inland communities.
So the first day will be to Telefomin, the center of the island of New Guinea, and then it will take the plane will take the team to Nuku, and then to Lumi. From Ulau, it will go to Swine. And then we will eventually end our program for West Sepik at Madapang. One of the highlights will be the convoy of the motorcycles that we have. You will never see that and experience that anywhere else in Papua New Guinea.
Oilsets, the longest oil exploration company in PNG, has won the naming right for the Games baton relay and has given 5 million kina to run the baton around PNG.
Not many people will have the opportunity to go to Port Moresby to witness the activities of the Pacific Games. So through the relay, many people outside of Port Moresby will have some kind of links with the Games, because for many of them that will be only their Games moment.
The excitement of seeing the Games baton is expected to boost the Games spirit in all provincial centres before the opening ceremony in Port Moresby in July. Quinten Alomp, National EMTV Sports.
PNG weightlifting icon Dikatoa was endowed in the orders of Papua New Guinea. Governor-General Grand Chief Sir Michael Ogio invested Toa and more than 60 others from the 2015 New Year's Honours List. The investiture ceremony held at Government's House was in honour of the valuable contributions made by individuals towards national development in the public and private sectors, sports and foreign relations, among others. And True Kai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports.
Welcome back to True Kai Sports. The Puma Energy Pukpuk Sevens have made a good impression with their stellar performance at the HSBC Hong Kong Rugby Sevens over the weekend. The Pukpuks qualified from the non-core quarterfinals after topping Pool F, but struggled to gain victory against Russia in the semis, going down 26 points to 7 yesterday. In a telephone interview, coach Billy Rapilla said it was a huge achievement topping the pool as the team exceeded many expectations despite failing to qualify for the World Series circuit.
The Puk-Puks had been placed under immense pressure leading into the Hong Kong Sevens. After a disappointing performance at the Wellington Sevens, the boys fought back against critics, winning all 3 pool matches.
Took the ball beautifully and went straight through.
The Puk-Puks triumphed a defenceless Uruguay in the quarterfinals qualifiers.
Hubert Saraha, and in at the corner for his second try, Wesley Varley.
Wesley Varley, who played halfback in Hong Kong, was outstanding midfield, scoring 3 back-to-back tries, securing the team's advancement into the semi-finals.
He's out to the bottle once again. Wesley Varley with a hat-trick.
After beating Russia in their pool match 26-17, the Russians came out stronger with their defence in the semi-finals, barricading PNG's chances to progress on to the Cup finals for the World Series circuit qualifier. In a telephone interview, coach Billy Rapilla was impressed with the team's overall performance.
Topping the pool has exceeded our expectations. The feeling in the team is very positive, really worked hard at our structures in our team game, and that's been working for us. And
Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports.
Good on you, Puk-Puks. And that report wraps up our sports segment tonight. The weather details coming up after the break. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
A quick look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in southern region. Fine weather expected in the nation's capital. In Momase, partly cloudy weather with chances of light showers expected in Lae City. In the New Guinea Islands, mostly fine, then afternoon showers expected in Kimbe. And lastly, in the Highlands region, light showers in Mendi and Wabeg. Now before we go, as always, recapping our top stories again tonight. Flood-affected areas in West New Britain Province face shortage of food and water. Also, care centre in Bogia flooded following continuous rains. And our sailing venue does not meet with International Federation requirements. Well, that's how we end the bulletin this Monday. I'm Tokana Hasavi. Thanks heaps for your company. You have a safe and enjoyable working week. Good night.